The birthday card sat alone on the marble table, its edges slightly worn from being carried in an apron pocket all morning. Margaret? Chen hadn't noticed it when she'd swept through her penthouse that evening. Designer heels clicking against Italian tile, phone pressed to her ear as she negotiated another multi-million-dollar merger. She hadn't noticed much of anything lately, not the way the sun set. Painted her floor to ceiling. Windows gold, not the untouched meals her housekeeper left warming in the kitchen, and certainly not the quiet woman who'd been caring for her daughter for the past 6 months. It wasn't until 10 o'clock that night, when Margaret finally collapsed onto her leather sofa with a glass of wine. She was too exhausted to drink, that she saw it. A simple card with hand-drawn flowers on the front, propped against the vase that always held fresh peonies. Margaret's name was written across the envelope in careful, slightly shaky script. She almost didn't open it. Birthday cards were something her assistant handled, thank you notes drafted, gifts selected, all requiring nothing more than her signature. But something about this card, so out of place among the cold elegance of her home, made her reach for it. Inside, the message was brief. Dear Mrs. Chen, happy 39th birthday. I hope this year brings you the peace you deserve. Your daughter drew the flowers on the front. She said they're happy flowers because they smile at the sun. With gratitude for this opportunity, Rosa Hernandez. Margaret's hand trembled. She'd forgotten it was her birthday. In the chaos of board meetings and conference calls, the date had come and gone without ceremony. But more striking was the realization that Rosa had remembered. Rosa, whose last name she'd just learned from reading this card. Rosa, who she'd hired through an agency and had barely spoken to beyond, leaving notes about Lily's schedule. She turned the card over. On the back, in a child's crooked letters, was written, I love you, Mommy, from Lily. Something cracked inside Margaret's chest. When was the last time she'd seen Lily draw anything? When was the last time they'd sat together without? Margaret's laptop opened beside them, her attention fractured into a dozen pieces. The next morning, Margaret did something she hadn't done in 3 years. She worked from home. When Rosa arrived at 7:30, as she did every morning, Margaret was waiting in the kitchen. Rosa froze in the doorway, her weathered hands clutching her purse. At 62, she carried herself with the quiet dignity of someone who'd worked hard every day of her life. Mrs. Chen, I didn't know you'd be home. Is everything all right? Is Lily? Everything's fine, Margaret said quickly. I wanted to thank you for the card. Rosa's worried expression softened. Oh, it was nothing. Lily wanted to help make it special. It was special, Margaret said, surprised by the thickness in her throat. Please sit down. Have you had breakfast? Rosa looked uncomfortable, glancing toward the hallway where 5-year-old Lily was presumably still sleeping. I should check on... Please, Margaret interrupted. Just for a moment. They sat across from each other at the kitchen island, and for the first time, Margaret really looked at the woman who'd been caring for her daughter. Rosa's face was lined with years of hard work, her hands rough and capable. She wore the same neat but faded dress she seemed to rotate with 2 others. And her eyes held a kindness that made Margaret ashamed she'd never taken time to notice before. How long have you been working as a nanny? Margaret asked. Rosa seemed surprised by the question. 15 years, ma'am. Before that, I was a teacher in Mexico. But when I came here, my credentials, they didn't transfer. She smiled without bitterness. But I still get to work with children. That's what matters. Do you have children of your own? Something flickered across Rosa's face. I had a daughter, Elena. She would have been 35 this year. The past tense hung in the air. She got sick when she was 16, leukemia. We didn't have insurance, and by the time we raised enough money, Rosa's voice trailed off. She cleared her throat. That's why I cherish every moment with the children I care for. Every birthday, every small joy. They're precious. Margaret felt something shift inside her. Here was a woman who'd lost everything, who worked tirelessly for modest wages, and yet she'd taken time to remember Margaret's birthday, to help Lily make something personal and beautiful, while Margaret, who had everything, couldn't remember the last time she'd tucked her own daughter into bed. I'm sorry, Margaret whispered. About your daughter. Rosa nodded, then smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. Thank you. But you know what helps? Lily. When I see her laugh. When she shows me her drawings or tells me stories about her day, I remember that love doesn't end. It transforms. I couldn't save Elena, but I can pour that love into other children now. A small voice interrupted them. Mommy, you're home! Lily stood in the doorway in her princess pajamas, her eyes wide with disbelief. She'd grown so much, Margaret realized with a pang. When had her baby become this long-legged child? I'm home, sweetheart, Margaret said, opening her arms. Lily ran to her, and Margaret held her tight. Breathing in the scent of her daughter's shampoo, feeling the warmth of her small body, how many mornings had she missed this? Did you like the card? Lily asked eagerly. Rosa helped me spell the words, but I drew all the flowers myself. It was the most beautiful card I've ever received, Margaret said honestly. Thank you, baby. Rosa said we should always celebrate people we love, Lily announced, even if we don't have much money. She said the best presents come from the heart. Margaret looked over Lily's head at Rosa, who was quietly preparing breakfast, giving them space. This woman, who had so little, who'd suffered so much, was teaching her daughter lessons that Margaret's expensive private school never could. Over the following weeks, Margaret began leaving the office earlier. She started eating dinner with Lily, helping with homework, hearing about her day. And she talked with Rosa, really talked with her. She learned that Rosa sent most of her earnings back to Mexico to support her elderly mother and 3 nieces. She learned that Rosa walked 40 minutes to work, each way because she couldn't afford a car. She learned that Rosa's dream had always been to open a small learning center for immigrant children, to help families like hers navigate a new country. One evening, 3 months after the birthday card, Margaret asked Rosa to stay after Lily had gone to bed. I've made some decisions, Margaret said. First, I'm giving you a raise, a substantial one. It should have happened long ago. Rosa's eyes widened. Mrs. Chen, that's too generous. Second, Margaret continued, I'm going to help you get your teaching credentials recognized here. I have lawyers who can navigate the process. And third, she slid a folder across the table. I want to fund your learning center. Consider it a business investment. You'll run it. I'll provide the startup capital and handle the legal structure. We'll create something that helps families and honors your daughter's memory. Rosa opened the folder with shaking hands, tears streaming down her face. I don't understand. Why would you do this? Margaret's voice caught. Because you gave me back my life. That birthday card, it woke me up. I was so busy building an empire that I'd forgotten to build a relationship with my own daughter. You showed me that success without connection is just emptiness. You gave me the greatest gift anyone could give, and you didn't even realize it. Rosa stood and embraced Margaret, both women crying now. Thank you, Rosa whispered. Thank you. A year later, the Rosa Hernandez Learning Center opened its doors in a bright, welcoming building downtown. Margaret had cut back her hours, restructured her company to prioritize work-life balance, and discovered that profits didn't have to come at the cost of humanity. She and Lily volunteered at the center every Saturday, working alongside Rosa to help immigrant families find their footing in a new country. The birthday card still sat on Margaret's nightstand, a reminder that sometimes the smallest gestures carry the greatest power. Rosa had given her more than a card. She'd given her a mirror to see what truly mattered. And in seeing, Margaret had found her way back to herself. On Rosa's 63rd birthday, it was Lily who made the card, with flowers that smiled at the sun. And when Rosa opened it, she saw not just words on paper, but a family transformed by kindness, held together by love, and forever changed by the simple act of remembering that we're all human, all struggling, all deserving of grace. The lonely CEO had learned that power isn't found in corner offices or merger deals. It's found in presence, in noticing, in honoring the people who show up day after day with quiet dedication. And the poor nanny had taught her that wealth isn't measured in bank accounts, but in the lives we touch and the love we share. Sometimes it takes losing ourselves to find what matters, and sometimes all it takes is one birthday card to light the way home.